We are the anchors of Queer News Tonight, and this evening we discuss the queer headlines. HOTspots magazine celebrates 40 years with a new issue, covering Outshine Film Festival, ArtServe Impact Awards, Jazz Under the Stars, LGBTQ plus history, and more.
Uganda's court upholds Anti-Homosexuality Act, citing U.S. Dobbs v. Jackson decision. Uganda can now impose severe penalties under this law, including crucifixion and stoning to death.
The American Library Association's new report shows a surge in challenged books, and in 2023, 7 out of 10 titles face objections due to LGBTQ plus content.
Smaller than the NCAA, the National Association of the Intercollegiate Athletics bans transgender women from women's sports. Echoing fears, the biological female-only rule will be effective from August 1st.
A gay Nebraska senator champions love for trans kids amidst debate on Sports and Space Act bill. Bill falls short in the legislature, offering temporary relief. His emotional speech is quite moving.
Good evening. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand. Available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news for Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
HOTspots magazine Happening Out Television Network is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ plus community. Our mission is to support the 11 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our queer culture, the Black community, Latino, lesbians and queer women, trans, students and youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus nonprofit media companies in America, HOTspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
In 2024, our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television, news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Let's meet tonight's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome Bobby Blair. He is a former professional tennis player, ranking in the NCAA's top 5. He managed the world team tennis with Billie Jean King and is a business training expert. He had successful LGBTQ plus publications like Next, Frontiers, and Fun Maps, and launched LGBTQ Loyalty Holdings. Now in Fort Lauderdale, he's a GLBT International Hall of Fame member. Bobby, one of the nation's largest LGBTQ plus cultural events, is coming April 18th to the 28th. It's the Miami edition of the Outshine Film Festival. Tell me what's happening.
It's going to be absolutely great. I looked at the preview of all the movies that are coming, and it really is a pillar of what our culture looks like in all the different facets, from young to old, to all the things that we're experiencing in the world in our LGBTQ community. So I think, get down to the Miami Convention Center, have a great time, have a great dinner on South Beach, and watch some incredible movies. I just think it's going to be amazing.
Absolutely. And stay tuned, because we will be following the Outshine Festival quite a bit here at Queer News Tonight and on the W Boys. Let's welcome anchor Jeff Oliverio. He is a financial advisor and certified financial planner with Truist Wealth in Fort Lauderdale. Jeff is one of the founders and president of the Hollywood LGBTQ Plus Council. He has served as co-chair for the National LGBTQ Task Force Gala since 2021. Jeff, nice to see you. Save will host their annual Champions of Equality Gala at the Miami Beach Eden Rock on May 4th. Tell me what's happening.
Well, for those who don't know, SAVE is one of our leading organizations here in South Florida that focuses on political advocacy for the queer community. The gala is a way to, again, celebrate our community and raise funds. If most of you don't know, it's an election year. SAVE does a lot of work out there knocking on doors and urging equality voters to the polls to help foster equality. They're honoring some really amazing people. Sarah Leonardi, who's from the Broward County School Board, is being honored. Rocco and Owen, who are the owners of Our House in Wynwood, are being honored, and several others. So tickets are available. They're going to be at the Eden Rock this year, so it will be a sit-down event as opposed to previous years where it was more of a cocktail reception.
Love.
So it's going to be a really, really fun event at the Eden Rock, one of the most iconic places on Miami Beach. So tickets are available. Check them out.
You had me at iconic, to be fair. And just to second something that Jeff said, it's a voting year. Get out there, by the way. Time to change it up a little bit. Let's welcome Nico Cales. He is a passionate learner and leader. He loves connecting with people, exploring new places, and creating meaningful memories. Nico is currently pursuing an MBA in marketing. We are so happy to have you here, Nico, making your debut at Queer News Tonight. Tell us one fun fact about yourself.
Ooh, one fun fact.
Yes.
I did a study abroad in Barcelona, and it was a really fun event. It was for 4 months I was there, and I came back like maybe a couple years ago.
Well,
so it was cool.
We are so happy to have you. Let's welcome anchor Dr. Tai Houser. He is a professor of English and Humanities at Broward College and teaches in the College of Business at Florida Atlantic University. He has served as a visiting professor at colleges in Bolivia, Brazil, China, India, and Spain, and provides an international viewpoint. Tai, good to see you again.
Hi,
Wilton Manors hosts an interesting concert in the park program called Live at Mickle, and it's going to be April 19th. Tell me what's happening.
Yeah, so there are a bunch of different events in this series, and it's the final one of the Mickle Park entertainment nights. So head out to Mickle Park, 7:30 on the 19th, and it'll be Karina Iglesias from The Voice. She'll be there. It's free. So take your blankets, bring some drinks, and yeah,
Sounds like
enjoy
fun.
enjoy the outdoor festivities.
Wow, it's great.
And of course, I get to introduce the Mrs. with the Mostest. This is tonight's lead anchor, Eric Restivo. Eric is well known for DJing at some of the largest clubs in West Hollywood and has had residences in Los Angeles, P-Town, and New York, and now Wilton Manors. He's the new television host of The W Boys, focusing on LGBTQ plus love for entertainment, which broadcasts on Fridays and then available on demand. Eric, I understand you have a really sweet gig coming up as the host for the glamorous red carpet at Dancing with the South Florida Stars. What's the goss, girl?
Yeah, so listen, my boss is sitting next to me, so I can't say too much about the event because we're doing slow reveals for the South Florida edition of Dancing with the Stars, right, Bobby? I can say that. But what I can say is that I'll be covering the red carpet and the post-performance interviews. So, like, we'll be talking to the before and the after, and we will slowly be revealing. The show's host is an iconic legend here in South Florida.
All over the world, actually.
Yeah, and we can't say yet, but there are 19 so far, some iconic people from the Wilton Manors community.
I will say something that I'd like to point out. I'm going to sneak one team out.
Go ahead.
Sunserve.
Ooh, Team Sunserve.
Executive Director, Tony Lima, with the legend Velvet Lenore. I'm only saying that because if you're announcing the Kentucky Derby and you want to talk about favorites,
right,
that's a team to be reckoned with. So for those of you that are practicing, I'm just letting you know you better get practicing.
Practicing, and I will be there to get all of the dish before and after your performance. We're really looking forward to it. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. First, this evening, let's queer up HOTspot magazine. New HOTspots magazine brings you the best of LGBTQ plus culture on April 11th. HOTspots is celebrating 40 years with the new issue on stands Thursday. The magazine is part of HOTspots Happening Out, the largest nonprofit LGBTQ+ media group in America. The new issue brings several interesting features, including a full feature on the Outshine Film Festival coming April 18th to the 28th. This new issue is an annual pet issue with features like bonding with your four-legged friend and dog grooming advice to keep pets clean and healthy and to help you take care of your pets. The magazine has also covered all of the details about the second annual Art Serve Impact Awards, along with the Arts United's Jazz Under the Stars featuring Karina Iglesias. If you are a history buff, the magazine has a whole feature dedicated to the importance of this month in LGBTQ+ history and the history behind next week's Lesbian Visibility Week, #LVW24. You won't want to miss the Spring 2024 TV and film preview by Leo M. Irving. This week's Hotspot Hotties interviews are Jordan Cipriano and Francisco Albertes. For 40 years, Hotspots Happening Out has brought you the best of LGBTQ+ culture and entertainment with our Hotspots magazine and television shows like The W Boys. Grab your free copy on Thursday or else be ready to miss all of the fun. And that is exactly what this magazine is. It's fun. It's your one-stop shop to get your events for the week, where you're supposed to eat that evening, if you're going to see a concert in the park, if you want to check out what's going on in Miami. I love Hotspots. I'll say it every week. But really, there's no better platform for me to find everything out in one place. Also, it's at like every bar I ever go to. You know, like they just have it right there when you walk in.
It's been iconic, you know, and being a competitor with them for many, many years, 15 years competing with, you know, Guy Magazine, Florida Agenda, Next. I got to tell you, they made me the publisher that I became, because if it wasn't for me having such an incredible bar to keep up with, it's unbelievable. The picture pages, the way Scott Holland keeps the community up to speed on everything that's happening.
Hey, Scott.
That represents, you know, whether you're, you know, just coming out and you've just gotten your 21, you know, you got that license, you can go to the bar, and or if you're 80 and you're going to Tropics for a dinner, Hotspots has it covered, and they made us as good as we could get because they're the best.
Every week, a friend of mine runs to pick it up to see if he's in it. Like, he just wants to know if his picture is going to be in it.
Back. Yeah, he probably is.
He really is.
I will tell you, that was the number one thing people love the most, picture pages.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for things like, again, you know, talking about Outshine and other events, you know, being able to see the full schedule, and they, you know, usually do a great preview of some of the movies. Obviously, you can get that information online, but it's a nice, quick
just
read
like
through.
Right in front of you,
exactly, and also to check in on things you want to go to and align your schedule. Like you said, there's quite a bit of things going on in South Florida week to week.
Very exciting, and you can read it in the bar, which is really great.
I'm still a book person. Like, I like holding. You know, I have a Kindle too, but I'll always prefer holding a piece of
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Now, let's queer up the worldview.
Yeah.
Uganda modeled its LGBTQ+ death law on U.S. Supreme Court's anti-abortion ruling. Uganda's highest court upheld a law criminalizing same-sex relationships, drawing inspiration from the U.S. Supreme Court anti-abortion ruling. The Anti-Homosexuality Act 2023 imposes severe penalties, including lengthy prison sentences and even death for those involved in same-sex sexual activity. Despite a petition seeking to overturn the law, the court ruled against it, referencing the U.S. Supreme Court Dobbs v. Jackson decision as precedent. The justice wrote that Dobbs v. Jackson is a decision that, where, quote, the court considered the nation's history and traditions, as well as the dictates of democracy and rule of law, to overrule the broader right to individual autonomy, end quote. In the Dobbs v. Jackson case, the Supreme Court overturned the landmark Roe v. Wade decision, which had safeguarded the right to abortion. Mark Pocan, a Democratic congressman from Wisconsin who is openly gay and chairs the Congressional Equality Caucus, has previously confronted conservative American organizations regarding their ties to AHA 23. He expressed concern, stating that the Ugandan Constitutional Court, drawing inspiration from the Dobbs decision to uphold Uganda's Anti-Homosexuality Act, is deeply troubling. He said, quote, the mention and misapplication of Dobbs by Ugandan court was no accident. There are U.S. organizations that celebrated the Dobbs decision who are also championing LGBTQ+ legislation abroad. It's quite kind of amazing to hear that a country, you know, that it's obviously not nearly as progressive as we hope the United States is using our own court decisions to pass such a horrific act against the gay community. And it just goes to say that, you know, when we started to hear about the ruminations of, you know, why do we have to get out the vote, right? And what does that mean? And that voting has consequences. And, you know, Donald Trump lived up to his
consequences.
Yeah. Well, he lived up to, you know, what he said he was going to do was he was going to support appointing Supreme Court justices that were going to overturn Roe v. Wade. And he said it again, I think just again yesterday, that he was, you know, very excited about it, and that he supports that these states' rights rules, which means that currently, you know, 1/3 of the states have no access to abortion or limited access to abortion. And that is just a slippery slope where, you know, again, as we can see, it's being interpreted in Uganda, but they're using that same legislation to interpret it in ways to reflect or to take away our own rights. So again, I don't think we can say it enough, and I'll say it again.
Say it again.
Voting matters, so get involved, give your time, treasure, and get out there and help spread the word to get out the vote.
So this story actually highlights something that I've been noticing happening with our language. Let me be the linguistics person for a second.
Yeah.
The rule of law is a phrase that doesn't really show up in our nomenclature, the words we use, until recently. And it's starting to trickle in more and more into how we talk about our democracy. We used to talk about freedoms, and we used to talk about, you know, all the good things. Now we want to talk about rule of law. Do you know who popularized the phrase rule of law?
Who?
Dictators in China. And so I think it just be aware of when that phrase starts to get thrown around, what's really going on. That's my concern.
I guess from my point of view, I second what you're saying. It's frightening to think of a country using our system and as a model for what they're trying to put in place right there. But what can we do from an action standpoint other than obviously get out and vote? But what could we do tonight outside of every single person share this, you know, news show on your platforms and keep bringing awareness to the horrible things that are happening everywhere? But what do we think is one action we could take tonight to make this more of an uphill battle as opposed to just going all the way down?
You know, I think it's important that we find the right people that have the ability to engage in this conversation that can bring more exposure to it. So stories like this don't always get the traction it deserves. It's, you know, getting traction with us because we care a lot. But you're not going to see a lot of this on CNN maybe. Even CNN's a friend to us. So I just think that getting this storyline and getting somebody that's within our community, that a David Geffen, an Elton John, somebody that's an ally, you know, somebody needs to jump on that story and become a leader of it and push it and push it and push it. And if we can create the exposure to it, it's amazing how all of a sudden quick things, quick fixes, you know, at least, you know, a conversation is being had that makes it very clear that we're not going away. We're not going to stop talking about it. But more importantly, we're going to find people in our community that can go fight these things. And you and I both know the bigger the name, the more money behind it, the better chance we have at a fix.
So, Bobby, you're going to be the man behind it, right?
I was going to say, we're going to fight the good fight.
Pioneering. Jeff can handle the financial side.
Yeah. Well, but I do think it's very important, again, that visibility that we bring to the table is, again, sharing your own story, whether it's in your workplace, if you're not in a, you know, diverse workplace, whether it's with, you know, groups of friends or family, to tell, again, a lot of this legislation sounds in, they tailor it here in the United States to sound very non-threatening.
Right.
You know, like the Don't Say Gay bill was, you know, was parents' rights for education. And it sounded very, but it's really telling the story of how this could personally impact you. I mean, women don't have to really tell that story any longer because, again, trying to get an abortion in Florida as of May 1st will be within 6 weeks.
Right.
So that story is very easy to tell, but it's not as easy to tell sometimes for how this affects the trans community with restrictions to healthcare, or, you know, how it affects, you know, the community of the queer community, of just being accepted in, whether it's the workplace, in schools, in universities, and how they're being restricted and how they're being, you know, really kind of taught that they're second-class citizens. Right. So I think it's just being visible.
I think, Bobby, do you have our next one?
I think I do. Well, where is it?
There you go.
There we go.
Gotcha.
Let's Queer Up Education.
I was like, I knew you'd
New
find it.
report shows almost all 2023's most challenged books were LGBTQ+. The American Library Association, ALA, unveiled its list of the top 10 most challenged books of 2023, with 7 of them facing objections due to LGBTQ+ content. ALA President Emily Drabinski highlighted that pressure groups are increasingly targeting books featuring LGBTQ+ individuals and people of color, which is evident in the list of the most challenged books from the last year. The number of titles facing censorship surged by 65%, that's incredible, in 2023, making the highest recorded by the ALA. The top 10 most challenged books of 2023 included Genderqueer by Maya Kodabi, All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson, and This Book is Gay by Juno Dawson. Reasons cited ranges from LGBTQ+ content of claims of being sexually explicit. Other titles on the list included The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, Flamer by Mike Curato, and The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, Tricks by Ellen Hopkins, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jesse Andrews, Let's Talk About It by Erica Moen, and Matthew Nolan and Sold by Patricia McCormick. According to the LA, prior to 2021, the majority of challenges aim to restrict access to a single title. However, recent challenges predominantly target multiple titles almost 90% of the time. ALA believes this is due to the so-called parents' right movement and anti-LGBTQ+ groups like Moms for Liberty. The report concluded that the overwhelming majority of challenged books in America in 2023 had LGBTQ themes. Well, what can I say about that? I mean, it's just, to me, we are 100% in a backward slide to all of the amazing works that we had for free speech to allow, I think for 20 years, we had the ability to write the books we wanted to write, share the stories we wanted to share, get the documentaries out there that we wanted to get out there. And, you know, people that weren't interested in that or weren't for it or didn't believe in it, they kind of just looked the other way. And they just kind of kept going on with their life. But over the past 5 years, there's been this movement in this country where people have come out of the woodwork who are expressing themselves in such a prominent kind of way. And that's because our political cycle has gotten so disrespectful to each other on both sides. And there have been so many lies told and so many lies have been doubled down on where you just know it's not true. And I don't want to mention names. We all know where it's coming from. And we know where a lot of it stems from. And I think that there is a movement in this country today where people can just get up and just say, I don't like it, I don't like it, I'm not going to stand for it. And I mean millions of people who just kind of just went and ran their own race in life, had their own path in life, are now jumping all over the place, and they're coming out against these kind of books and bringing notice to books that, quite frankly, have a place in this country and have a place around the world.
The sad part is that so many of the book bans are, or so many of the books that are questioned are brought to the attention of people by folks who don't have kids in school,
right,
who don't have, they have no skin in the game, as it were, but they want that book banned because it's on a list that they got from someone else that says, you know, they talk about gay shit.
And I think 5-10 years ago, those people would have just stayed in their lane and not worried about it. But now they're empowered to go have this big voice about something that has no impact to their life whatsoever. Wait till they have a gay grandkid. Wait till their daughter has a son that comes out, star football player, and he's gay. Mm-hmm. They'll change their tune then.
All that list tells me is that there are a few books that I have not read yet, to be fair, that I am looking forward to.
If you haven't read The Bluest Eye, you have to read it. It's a seminal piece.
I will.
I think, again, what can you do is the question here. I think two things. Go out to your local bookstore and buy one of these book titles. It's just a kind of a simple way of doing a little bit of a resistance to that movement. Donate it back to, there's lots of youth organizations, Pride Line, Lifeline, SunServe, donate those books back so that they're here and available to LGBTQ youth. Nova Southeastern University has been doing a series. My son is a student at the high school.
Oh.
They've been doing a series. They actually have one tonight where they do a banned book discussion.
Yeah.
So tonight
wow.
they're doing Persepolis, I believe, is the book they're doing. I might be pronouncing that incorrectly.
Better you than me.
Is the one tonight. But they did The Handmaid's Tale. They did, they have had several of them. So there's movements out there, and Books and Books, which is a local bookstore here in South Florida, has a huge, first of all, supporter of our community. They actually helped us with the Task Force Gala. We actually did a banned book section where we got books from LGBTQ authors. I mean, they weren't technically banned books, but we had LGBTQ authors and themes with signed books, and we use those for part of the auction. Wow. So it's just doing little things, again, to show resistance and to show visibility and to let people know that we won't be erased by these ridiculous laws.
Yeah. Nico, I'm wondering, did you have any of those titles in your, did you read any of them? Because you're closer to the age of folks who would have read those books than I am.
Yeah, definitely. The Perks of Being a Wallflower was one of them, and I absolutely loved the book. I also watched the movie, and it was great. I was like, I was in high school, and I read it from front to cover to back, and say if I wasn't allowed to read it, and people, like parents, are gatekeeping it, and the school system was gatekeeping it, I don't think I would have had so much love for the characters and the stories and self-expression with the LGBTQ storyline. So
it empowered you, right? It empowers you as a young person to do more, I hope, right?
Yeah, and I feel as if it was like a moment where I could see myself in the stories versus trying to figure it out on my own.
Yeah,
and like what is the blueprint. There's no other blueprints for queer students.
Amazing. It's great to hear that somebody this intellectual and smart and confident has been inspired, and your development is due, of course, to these books in a lot of ways, right?
Yes, definitely. Next, let's queer up sports. NAIA bans all transgender women from women's sports. On Monday, the National Association of the Intercollegiate Athletics, aka the NAIA, made the decision to prohibit transgender women from participating in women's competitions starting next academic year. This move has raised concerns among transgender rights advocates about the possibility of the NCAA adopting similar policies. During the NAIA's National Convention, the Council of Presidents resolved that effective August 1st, only students biologically classified as female may compete in women's sports. This includes transgender men or non-binary students who are undergoing masculinizing hormone therapy. National Association of the Intercollegiate Athletics President and CEO Jim Carr emphasized the organization's commitment to ensuring fair competition for all student athletes in a news release. The NAIA, comprising 241 member schools, primarily private with smaller enrollments, holds less sway compared to the NCAA, known for its popular teams and events like the men's basketball title game. Unlike the National Association of the Intercollegiate Athletics, the NCAA regulations permits transgender athletes to participate provided they adhere to international sports governing bodies guidelines. While the NCAA generally supports inclusion, it has refrained from relocating championship events from states with anti-gender athlete legislation. Anna Bayeth, Director of Research for Athlete Ally, believes the NAIA's decision suggests the NCAA could adopt similar policies.
Oof. This has been, murky water for a while now for that end of the table. Those people who think that we need to go back to segregating and make it trans women versus women and have two separate teams. I fully believe that if you're living your life, obviously as a woman, that you should be able to participate, in a women's category. I don't know why we would take steps backwards in time and add more segregation to something like this. So this, I always say this, though, this is murky water we're in with this one.
What makes it even murkier, too, is that you can now bet on college sports.
Oh, right.
Right? So adding a layer of gambling to this discussion, I think, is ultimately going to force the NCAA to make a decision that we're not going to like.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
But the popularization of this of trans athletes and fighting against inclusion of trans athletes in sports is really, again, an issue that is affecting 0.1% of the population,
right.
and it is not going to upend sports as we know it, which has kind of been the clamor out there.
Yeah, the narratives.
So again, it's just another narrative that has been put out there into the public. That is to vilify the trans community and make them out to be, out to upend our way of life here in the United States, and a way to attack them, and is just again putting them at more risk of a community that's already at great risk. So
it's tough when you have it coming from within the community. You have Caitlyn Jenner, who basically hates what she is as a human and feels that trans humans should not be able to participate in born, females, as they're putting it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough when you are having power players, and I use that term loosely, from the community against that same
Martina Navratilova.
Right. Who has since kind of retracted her statements a little bit, or not retracted, but she's kind of tried to add a bit of cream to it, I guess. But
Martina,
I'm interested to hear your point of view on this a little bit.
Yeah.
Professional tennis, NCAA, everything. How do you feel about categorizing, segregating, or integrating all together? I'm interested to hear your point of view. And there's no, your opinion is not a wrong answer.
You brought up Martina Navratilova, a dear friend.
Right.
I was her hitting partner when I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
And I would fly over from Fayetteville, Arkansas to Fort Worth, and we'd practice on weekends. And, I was a good player, not a great player. I certainly never won the U.S. Open, never won 50 Grand Slam titles like she did. And I was playing her when she was number one in the world and dominating women's tennis. And she'll tell you, I never lost a set to her. And I was a, number 1, 2, 3, 4 college player in America. I did beat a Wimbledon champion on his worst surface. I played on the tour for 5, 6, 7 years, missed the Olympic team by one match. So I was pretty good. But I didn't lose a set to Martina Navratilova, and every time I went out there and played on the men's circuit, every match was tough, and I lost a lot. My only concern about this, and I'm so cautious in how I say this, I'm concerned for the well-being if it gets into wrestling, or if it gets into physical contact sports like rugby. I am concerned that the transgender athlete could get injured really severely. There's a real concern for the physicality of injury. So that kind of strikes me. But I'm going to leave it to smarter people than me. I'm going to leave it to the doctors. I'm going to leave it to the organizations that want to gauge strength. I want to leave it to the people that I really know just so much more about the human body than I do. And I know that this is about, who you are and who you were born to be and who you truly believe you are. But I think that there's a component of injury potential, and I think there's a strength issue where men that are transgender women are much, much stronger in many cases if they're competing in sports. So I just want to make sure that the world sees this in a full circle conversation. But am I all for transgender athletes competing? give it your best shot and live your dream.
Boxing,
But boxing's concerning.
But wrestling and boxing are weight classes, so it's not like they're just going to be put up against, some random, it's going to be weight.
But I
classes.
tell you, it's dangerous.
No, I hear you.
Dangerous.
I hear you.
From what I understand, and again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm going to make a statement. From what I understand, somebody that's in full transition, who's done everything completely correct and right, even after having done that for 5 years, they're still nowhere near the strength of
a genetically born
that's right.
male. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, so I'm concerned that there's going to be a lot of injuries. I'm concerned that this whole thing is just not going to end well.
Well, it's a different avenue to kind of shed light to, so
Yeah.
it's not like it's a bad concern. It's one to raise
it's
awareness,
valid.
and I'm sure you're not the only.
I swear, I will say this for the record.
Yeah.
I swear I wish I was transgender because I would have won 9 Wimbledons. Because I beat the 9-time Wimbledon champion every time in a practice set.
Fair news.
So I will go that far with this.
I think Martine is calling in right
I
now.
feel there's a movie here we should write.
And I love her, by the way.
We'll talk about that movie.
Go take it back in time.
All right, next, we're going to queer up the USA view. Nebraska gay Senator Tearful speech, "The world can be tough and scary," on Senate floor. Nebraska's first openly gay Senator, John Frederickson, delivered a poignant address in defense of transgender youth statewide and across the nation. Fighting back tears, Frederickson emphasized his commitment to advocating for their rights during a recent legislative session. Addressing the people of Nebraska, he affirmed, quote, "If you love your kids unconditionally for who they are, and if they know they're loved, you can weather a lot." Frederickson's speech unfolded amid a heated debate at the state capitol concerning a proposed bill known as the Sports and Spaces Act. This legislation aimed to restrict transgender students' access to facilities and sports teams consistent with their gender identity. An added amendment to the bill will potentially ban transgender boys from sports competitions altogether. During the deliberations, Frederickson, a gay parent himself, urged families with transgender children to surround yourself with the people who love you over the weekend and to ignore the senators who supported the anti-transgender legislation. For what it's worth, the Sports and Spaces Act failed to overcome a filibuster, garnering 31 votes in favor and 15 against. It failed short of the required 33 votes to advance the bill. Among the dissenting votes was, of course, Senator Frederickson. Well, I'm glad that
the world can be tough and scary. I personally know a thing or two about having a family that many people might say is not normal. I stand here today confidently to tell you, if you love your kid unconditionally for who they are, and if they know they're loved, you can weather a lot. So this weekend, when you go home, I want you to love your babies. Surround yourself with the people who love you. Let them know you love them. And don't spend a minute of your energy or time thinking about any of my colleagues in here who are too scared of difference to allow themselves to understand and celebrate the beauty and joy that you bring to our state. Thank you, Mr. President.
Wow, that was really emotional and powerful. You can tell he has a lot of passion for, obviously, his family and love for his community. And Nebraska,
Right.
it's tough out there.
Yeah.
It's
We
to
need
be
more
to be a
people
gay
like-
senator from Nebraska is a tough job to have. So I hope that I know that it failed, but it will probably come back up and they'll have another vote. But hopefully the community will rally and maybe change some minds at least along the way.
Again, I think it's just a sign of progress, even though this is such a, again, another story about, taking rights away. But, again, a gay senator in Nebraska, I'm going to get the senator and the state wrong, but we also had that story that was earlier this year about the female senator that was filibustering against the.
That's right.
Yeah, and again, in a red state,
Omaha,
and it was in Oklahoma, or in
Is that
Nebraska.
It was in Nebraska?
Yeah.
It was in Nebraska. Oh, this was Nebraska. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. So again, those voices that are out there, and we're seeing them again in these places where you would never have seen a gay senator or a lesbian senator or even a parent talking about their gay children on a Senate floor, just shows that the progress, it's happening. It just, again, that's why there is so much pushback against our culture and our community because of the progress that's happening. So I think these kind of stories like this are inspiring because that movement, although it's terrible and these waves are happening, we see all of the progress that is still to come.
It's better that it's happening as opposed to not happening whatsoever and just getting brushed under. But it's I agree with you. It's good to have it out there. Sometimes they say negative press is still good press, right? So,
and it's also good to know that there are a lot more gays in Nebraska than we thought.
right, you never thought you'd hear gay, senator, Nebraska in the same sentence, right?
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it's cooler than cool. As a nonprofit LGBTQ plus media organization, we would like to thank our viewers for support of our mission to tell the stories of the queer community. We also would like to thank the generous support of Jets Pizza. Jets is the LGBTQ plus community's most popular pizza in South Florida.
Take a look around these streets. Do you really think we woke up one day and said, yeah, the world needs more pizza? Nah, just a better one. Better, like the world's best pizza. Jet's Detroit-style pizza. Hand-pressed and baked to the thickest, crispiest crunch. You're welcome. Now visit jetspizza.com and save. Click on Hot Deals for special offers in your area. Jets, better because it has to be.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church right here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International service at 10:30 a.m.
We finish tonight's queer news headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
In LGBTQ plus 1 minute news, let's queer up politics. America's first openly gay elected official is concerned about today's attacks on LGBTQ plus people. Half a century has passed since Kathy Kazachenko, a 21-year-old University of Michigan student, made history as the first openly gay person elected to public office in the United States. Now 71, Kazachenko's single term on the Ann Arbor City Council paved the way for LGBTQ plus representation in politics during a pivotal time of visibility for the community in American society. While her name isn't as widely recognized as her contemporary, Harvey Milk, she has remained engaged in politics over the decades, closely observing the current surge in anti-LGBTQ plus state policies and rhetoric. She believes these challenges are, quote, more dangerous than some of those faced by her generation, and says, we have to do the work again.
1 Minute News, let's queer up South Florida and Florida. HOTspots happening out Wilton Manors Art Walk is April the 20th. The Art Walk season resumed in October of 2023 and runs until June 2024. Art Walk Wilton Manors, held on the third Saturday of each month, invites artists and craftspeople to showcase their work along Wilton Drive. Hosted by HOTspots happening out, the upcoming Art Walk on Saturday, April 20th, also features a cake raffle courtesy of Ronnie's Bake Shop at Janetta's Vendetta, a trumpet player and singer. Both these events will take place at Dixie Village on Dixie Highway and the famous Wilton Drive. The Art Walk is open to all. Be there to shop, dine, and enjoy the local community with your friends and family. It's a great time.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up entertainment. Former CNN host Don Lemon gets married in star-studded affair. Former CNN anchorman Don Lemon, 58, tied the knot with his boyfriend of 5 years, 39-year-old realtor Tim Maloney. Their wedding, held at the Fifth Avenue Presbyterian Church in Midtown Manhattan, featured their beloved dogs and a star-studded guest list of 140 attendees. United States Ambassador to the United Nations Linda Thomas Greenfield officiated the wedding. The couple honored their diverse cultural backgrounds. Maloney's sisters presented an Irish wedding blessing, and then both the grooms jumped over a broom, a traditional wedding ritual rooted in the history of black slaves in the 19th century South. Following this ceremony, attendees participated in a second line, a New Orleans custom paying tribute to Lemon's Baton Rouge roots.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up entertainment. Amy Schneider loses second match but is tied moving into third and final Jeopardy tournament in the inaugural Jeopardy Invitational Tournament. Popular trans participant Amy Schneider emerged victorious on the first night but faced defeat last night. With 2 of the 3 contestants having won 1 game, it is currently a tie. Amy and Victoria Gross battled fiercely, with Victoria ultimately clinching the win in the final round. Both competitors demonstrated impressive knowledge, but it was Victoria who secured the victory, setting the stage for a decisive third game in the tournament. In the inaugural Jeopardy Invitational Tournament, the top 3 competitors are vying for a $100,000 grand prize and an invitation to the upcoming Jeopardy's Masters tournament.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up sports ball. New report raises concern on gay gym culture can lead to body dysmorphia. Depression can manifest in unexpected ways, sometimes alleviated through physical exertion. Gay bodybuilding, as experienced by psychologist Alan Downs, is the velvet rage, may serve as defense against societal marginalization. Reports from both the US and Europe indicate a global rise in anabolic steroid usage among men, along with increased rates of body dysmorphic disorder, often referred to as gay gym culture. However, this is not a new social phenomenon. While talking to Alexander Chavez for Out magazine, historian Sasha Coward notes that ancient Greeks had certain beauty and physical appearance criteria that influenced same-sex partnerships at that time. He says that despite the body positive movement, social media sets unrealistic ideals, leading to self-doubt. And that is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world, out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If your community is to grow, we must share our stories and tell them to everyone that will listen, to the attention of our broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of HOTspots magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Eric Restivo, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Bobby Blair, Jeff Oliverio, Nico Cales, and Dr. Tai Houser, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. to our LGBTQ plus world. We wish you
good night.